Back in the hot seat after a big week for the Karaka Millions. Good to be back. I tell you what, it's been a little bit of a flat week, and I'm sure it has been for those people on my left that we'll get to in a second. But for all of you out there in the community, we're live from the Export Beer Garden studio. Dan Rack and a big special guest, Mr. Fitzy himself, Andrew Fitzgerald. Good to have you boys in the studio. Dan, firstly, how are you, mate? You recovered?
Yeah, mate. Well, it's been a long road to recovery this week, that's for sure. Really pushed the boat out on Saturday night. Had an absolute blinder of a night. Really good time. Ran into a lot of people, met a lot of people, spoke to a lot of people. Apologies if I talked your ear off about some garbage, but had a great time.
Outstanding. Fitzy?
Well, I haven't gone home yet, so I'm still here. I was meant to fly out on Sunday, but I'm still here kicking away. So, awesome night, and even better late night after all the races were finished. Ellerslie put on a show again.
Yeah, certainly. Dan, you've been at the sales, obviously.
I have, yeah.
Okay.
Spending up a little bit. So
a few horses to take home.
But just shares in them for our ownership group down home to enjoy. So, it's filled up the week anyway.
Well, we'll get to that in a second as well. Firstly, Matt Davies, Matt Daddy, we call him now, because he is a dad, which is exciting. They've had a boy, and they've called it Boy, I believe. Is that right?
Something like that.
Yeah, I better not name the child, but shout out to Matt and Sarah, but that is why I'm back in the hot seat. It's been a little while. Would love to know what your favourite memory was from Karaka Millions weekend. The comment should be in the post there, so get those coming in. Would love to see what those are and were. Also, what your best bet is for this weekend, so let us know in the comments. We're going to run through the Punters Club, some of the bets. We're going to go back to race 1 and then relive right through to the nightmare of race 6 and relive some of those moments and pull out some of the data from the night as well, and then have a little look at some races from Taranaki this weekend because the punt doesn't sleep, and some best bets and some general admin, including a blessed bet. So we'll start with you boys. Highlight from last weekend or even last week. What do you got for me, Dan?
I think the highlight for me was Velocious getting home and getting that, was it 800k collect?
Yeah, nice.
We had 3 ways to win in that race, and obviously that was the least amount we could win, wasn't it?
Yeah.
800k is no sneeze. Hearing the boys get paid chant go up was pretty cool.
Yeah. Fitzy?
Just the whole night, really. It's always a night you looked forward to for 12 months. So the whole night there wasn't one thing to pick out. Obviously, it was an up and down night, but just to be there is bloody exciting.
Massive build-up, and then it's over so quickly. As we're getting closer to race 6, I'm just like, how has this gone by already? And if the punt's not going our way, it gets more stressful, and it seems to go faster. And we'll get into some of the things that happened on the night. But I saw a couple of really cool pieces yesterday to reminisce on, and one of them was J-Mac being interviewed around the back, and I don't get to see a lot of the content from the Saturday night because we're so deep in all of the admin and whatnot, but basically it's Britt Taylor Wright was interviewing J-Mac, asking, hey, did you know that the boys had a bet on you? And everyone knows about it. It's just so crazy now that it went from a few people getting together on track, having a bet together, to now the jockeys know what the bets are. J-Mac saying, I hope no one runs me down because the boys have put their life on this. And the Australians just absolutely loving the Punters Club. And then I tuned into a bit of a podcast that they did over there. Don't know if you boys can remember what it's called, but just talking about how exciting the race day is and wanting to get over here for it. And they're just so fascinated by the concept of BGP and the Punters Club, which is really cool to see. But I think it's a reminder too. I was talking to Paul Wilcox from Ellerslie a little bit earlier today, and I said, I think a lot of people forget this is 7 years now. This is 7 years that we've been building towards this. So, it's not like we've just kind of snapped our fingers and started creating these moments. There's been a lot of thinking that's gone into it and a lot of build-up. There's a lot of relationship building, and it's basically, trying to get that build to what it was on Saturday. So it was really rewarding to see it all come together.
It's going to be interesting to see where you go from here because that was pretty big. And the room can't get any bigger. So do they just give you the whole stand or what? Because I don't know what the other options are because that's it was amazing. unbelievable to think exactly what you're saying, like that. They're now talking about on the mainstream, like on the broadcast, discussing what's going on, the bets that are happening, interviewing the jockeys. The jockeys know what's going on. It's pretty surreal.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, the just back to that podcast, the Races WA, that podcast was. But I think even in the stand, might have been after J-Mac got up, I just had to take a moment with you and Goat to remind you that 6 years ago we could only dream of collecting 810,000, and I know, like, we won it. It was exciting, but also at the same time, obviously the cool and fast bet didn't get off, which was, there was a lot of build up for that, and then the full force one as well. So I think we took a moment there. I was like, boys, can we just take a quick trip down memory lane for 5 years ago and know how big of a moment that was. And then obviously later on breaking the records too. That was an even bigger one.
Yeah, even the GOAT before the first race said, before Cricketti jumped, have a look at all these people out on this balcony with smiles on their faces, ready to watch, 6 of the best races we'll see this year. And it's so hard in those busy days to actually stop and just think, oh, wow, this is amazing. And I had a pretty cool moment. Went to Ellerslie earlier on in the morning to do an interview on SEN track for Australia, and just went up and sat in the room just on my own and was like, man, this place is going to be hissing in about 6 hours' time, and it's just dead quiet. It's just me in here at the moment, and later on there's just going to be people having, hopefully, if we can create it, the best day of their life. So hopefully we did that for some people, and I've got a little bit of feedback. I just want to read this one out because it's coming throughout the week, and it said, myself, and so many people come from all over the place. Someone from China, people from Australia, groups of people from Australia saying this is the best race day they've experienced. But Invercargill, the Naki, Wellington, just all over the show to get here for this. And this one was pretty cool. It said, myself and my friends were very impressed with the organisation at the event last Saturday night. My friends came from Invercargill and I live in Christchurch, and we had a wonderful time. I must say we all didn't know what to expect. Our first BGP event and all in our 60s. I thought it might just be a drunken party. Now, I remember recently someone was commenting saying, what was some bullshit about, it's just, just a bunch of drunks or something like that. But it was just a whole lot of people enjoying themselves, and I see much worse on Cup Day and Cup Week. The food was excellent and once again better than the trotting Cup Day. I enjoyed the racing and the hype of what boys get paid are doing for racing, that your average Kiwi can come along and be treated as though we belong. Sadly, this is why the racing has gone backwards and the bread and butter punter is not being looked after. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank BGP, Luke and the team at BGP and the staff at Ellerslie. We look forward to coming back. Now, the whole thing with BGP from the start was bringing people together and a sense of community and making it okay to like to talk about racing and to want to have a bet on something. And I feel like we've kind of broken the back of that. I've got in the lift twice at my apartment this week, and now the people that live in my apartment are like, you're the betting guy. But you didn't go very good on Saturday. I'm like, fuck, cheers. Yeah, I saw you in the Herald. But, it wouldn't have been that long ago that it's like, and I've been to meetings, accounting meetings, for instance, and it's like, oh, well, that's not a very good look as an accountant to be doing stuff like that. But a little bit of that seems to have kind of gone these days, and it's a bit bigger than that.
Are you the only accountant with an passion outside of accounting? Because they do say some are quite boring.
Yeah, that's a fair point, mate. Apart from abacuses, they haven't got too much going on. But yeah, cool to get that sort of feedback coming through. Adam, anything in the comments, mate, before we start ripping into some of the details from Saturday?
Yeah, well, it's a couple of moments. We've got one from Ethan here, which was just Balclair getting up for Lisa Ladder. Thomas is already shouting out for Fitzy to give him a winner at Addington.
We'll get to that later on.
Yeah, and there's just 2 others here, and it just looks like they're celebrating 2 friends of theirs with massive collects on the weekend. So, yeah, no, much of the same. And yeah, I guess keep them coming in, and we'll get to them when we can, man.
Brilliant. What do you boys reckon? How do we top that? Where to from there?
Gee whiz, I mean, I think the only thing that could have made that day better is collecting 6 mil. And, I mean, that's not necessarily always the point of it, because I think regardless of how we went, I know I had a lot of fun, and it's so cool just being invested and involved in the horses and what's going on. And for the most part, 99.9% of the time, those outcomes would always do better than what I just would if I was going on the punt myself anyway. I mean, one in every 10 weekends I might have a good weekend, but strike rate's pretty low. But I think that's probably the only thing is maybe we could have, maybe had one of those big collects would have maybe really set the room on fire.
Yeah, definitely would have.
We might have to. I think we spend a little bit of money and get someone to do some chants up for a few jockeys and have a range of them. Obviously, it was unlucky. Opie didn't have any luck. We didn't get to have that one out, but J-Mac come back and as a Kiwi proved he's one of the best jockeys in the world, if not the best. So probably deserved a good chant rather than just a wee J-Mac. And I'm sure someone out there will be an expert in doing those and can whip one up.
I was trying to get, there's only 300 James McDonald's going, but it's pretty hard. But yeah, definitely I think a little bit more noise and whatnot, and maybe go a little bit wider with some of those chants and the like. I think if you haven't been before, you've got to go and be a part of that atmosphere. I don't think you can really understand what that race evening is like now until you're there. And it's crazy to think what it could be like next year, because I think it's not like they're going to take the foot off the gas.
Even with that little bit of rain, usually you go to a meeting anywhere else and a little bit of rain comes and people are out the door and gone, but everyone stuck around and found a little bit of cover and was still there for the after party, so that just proved how good of an event it was.
Yeah, big old go. Right, I've still got, up on my screen here, boys, I've still got the races from Ellerslie, and I've kept those so that we can dive into them. Now, I've made some notes before we go through each of these races too, and I'm sure Fitzy might have the bets from the app to go through, but did you know that only 2 favourites won on the night? Now, one of those was Crescetti, and the other was Velocious. Now, I was really surprised when I went back through these races because obviously we are under the pumper throughout the night and you don't get to take in all of these little details. And it wasn't until, I think, Tuesday when I sat down, might have even been Monday, and started to go through it. But Crescetti and Velocious were the only 2 horses that started as sub, so effectively the favourite for the race that won. So 2 out of 6. So I was quite surprised at how many people seemed to think it was like an easy night's punting. But then if we start going through the races, so Crescetti in race 1 went round at $1.40, and that kicked us off because then we were then sitting on J-Mac to win a race. Now, that was a little bit of our play strategically to be insurance around our bet on Cool and Fast, and then we're obviously quite keen on Orchestral in the last race, so that gave us 2 options. Now, that kicked us off well, and so it should have. I mean, $1.30, $1.40, but then into race 2, we spoke about Master Fay, who won the race on the Friday, and we just weren't overly sure, but into $4.90, we went 200,000 on I'm Wonderful Tonight, and that run 3rd. So we were pretty well beaten. Our other play in that race was going to be Quinella's around I'm Wonderful Tonight and Preview, and also Romance in the Moon. But the goat was sort of off Romance in the Moon, and he was right because it didn't run in the top 4. So we decided to just hit I'm Wonderful Tonight outright and then wait for the action to really heat up from race 3. Now, I'll just remind people that Maven Bell was in that race, and that horse started favourite. Now, Maven Bell did not run in the top 4. A lot of messages throughout the week. Best bet, Maven Bell, got to go again this week. You got to be on. But started favourite, and we said from the outset, and I think we said on the live stream, we've effectively laid her. We're not going to be playing around Maven Bell.
And sorry, just to add to that race a little bit more as well, because we did speak a little bit about Master Fay on the podcast on Thursday as well, and it was such a tough horse to try and pick as one that you're going to confidently back on a night like that. Like, it had 1 start in New Zealand. Came back from a serious injury, 6-year-old. Like, obviously, it had a lot of talent, but there's so many unanswered questions until it runs, and then it goes out and does something like that and shows that it's, super talented. But, it's hard to back with a lot of people's money with confidence on a horse that's had sort of 1 start in New Zealand.
Yeah.
I think it was given an absolute peach by Vinnie Colgan too, which helped it even more. He had a great night, and that helped that horse.
Certainly did. Chad Ormsby certainly knows what he's doing as well. So probably one to follow in Master Fay there. So then we turn the page into race number 3, where Belclear upset us. Now, this is where I guess where it starts to get interesting for us, right? Because we had $100,000 on Farrelleone at the 14s to win, and we've run second. So if if we win, bang, 1.4 milli in the kitty, and shit starts getting pretty crazy. Now, just to give you some insight into this race as well, Luberon started favourite, $4. $4. So punters absolutely came for Luberon. Now, this horse run last and bled. So very, very unfortunate. But again, didn't really see anyone talking about that. And there must have been a stack of punters on to move this horse to $4. So people got beat up there. Belclear wins. The frustrating thing for us is in our hour and a half call on Friday, Ted, myself, and the GOAT, Belclear was one of the horses, basically the horse that we identified as this is something that we may play around depending on what we've done in the race before. We got to this and we were just happy to sit on Farrelleone and watch. And the GOAT and I basically looked at each other at about the 200 and we're just like, fuck, not going to catch it.
I think it's fair to say too, Luke, you were thinking maybe of another bet in that race, but then with the next race being where there was obviously the Cool and Fast and the J-Mac cover sort of bet that if those races maybe had been around the other way and James McDonald had ridden that winner one race earlier and returned 8-10, it might have it obviously gives you a bit of confidence, right? And then it helps you with your pool to maybe have another bet. But you were sitting on the overs, the $14 overs. I'm not sure what it closed. You might have it there, but obviously into about $5 or $6. So it was a great bet to get overs. Yeah. And then if those races were switched around the other way, I think you might have played it differently. But obviously you've got to play the way your cards were dealt. And I know after race 1, it was pretty much the next 2 races. You've got good potential collects sitting there. Sit there, see how they go before continuing on with the plan.
Yeah, it's actually really hard when you're 2 races down. You haven't actually got to collect.
No.
Like you've got something in the bank potentially if J-Mac wins one, but it's like you've outlaid all this cash.
Yeah, and I think we were sitting on 585k. Now, sometimes what we do in this situation too is we say, okay, let's worst case scenario it from here. Farrelleone doesn't win. J-Mac doesn't win a 2-year-old, doesn't win the 3-year-old. We don't get Cool and Fast home. We've got 580k, from 1.2. And the sizzle's gone, and then how are we playing it? So we do there's a lot going on in the background that people probably don't see. But yeah, you're right, Fitzy. I think if that race had have been the other way around, and we put 810 in the bank, could have been some weird shit going on with Farrelleone and Belclear. But also the thing that you have to, and maybe I'll talk about this in a future race because I've got a couple of good examples of it. But you got to be careful not to confuse people with the number of bets as well. And it's very easy to kind of go, and I'll show you in a better example. We won't use this one for it, so we'll move on. But we then go into race 4. We don't collect anything there. Now, the only horse that we identified that could beat Velocious and Cool and Fast, and we were slowly losing confidence in Cool and Fast from just some of the things we were hearing, and basically the play was, well, it's full force. Now, we looked at that and thought, well, if Cool and Fast wins, there's $1 million in the kitty. If Velocious wins, we're banking 800. If Full Force wins, we're going to be gutted. So let's load 100k on at 11s to win $1 million. Then we've basically got 3 very, very good chances to win near on $1 million in a 2-year-old Karaka Millions, which is one of the hardest races to try and find a winner in. And I don't want to tell you how many times I got messages saying, you better have something on Belectric Star. It's working better than Cool and Fast. Have you heard? Are you going to have a bet on that? Imagine if we tried to bet on everything that people send in or comment.
A prime example of that race there would be the second horse. Was it the one that came off the emergency after the scratching?
Yeah.
So there's a good example of that. We heard probably nothing about that in the messages, and I've seen the messages for the last week, and I can feel your pain on some of them that were coming through, but there was never any mention of that horse, and it ran an absolute belter to run second.
So, of course, people are going to say, well, why don't you back it to place? Yeah, okay, maybe. I think it was $3 something. But, hey, if it wins, it's like, oh, well, so now we just up another 200K. But I guess just think about this too. Let's say Full Force wins and we bank a milli, but we don't back the 800, but Orchestral wins later on and we back the 800 there, right? Like, things start... We were very, very close, and we were very, there and thereabouts. So now we're tricky, right? Because we've got 2 races to go, and all roads led to race 5, Legato. Now, we all know what happened to Legato, but Legato started $1.25. So again, punters just get absolutely torched by Legato. Now, we were pretty keen on Desert Lightning being the horse to play around with Legato. Now, going outside of the Punters Club to explain how confusing it could get, earlier in the week I identified, we sort of knew, this is a $1.50 horse if Legato turns up and does her thing right, but we all know what can happen. Now, earlier in the week, when I was putting my own individual bets on, I'm like, oh wow, here's an interesting option. Desert Lightning to win, Holly Mann's top 4. So I'm scenario planning in my head thinking, right, imagine if Legato, something happens, like a Luberon situation to Legato, and I'm like, okay, well, I could see Desert Lightning stealing it, and then Holly Mann's filling 2nd, 3rd, or 4th with Legato out. That's $31. I just have like a little bit of something on that, just because that's the way I might play that race. And then going into it, probably start looking at some exactors, but, very keen on Legato winning, and would expect Legato to win that race every day, and then know that, well, all of those novelty bets that you put on didn't count for shit and were all a waste of money, and you end up down because Legato wins and you lose the money you've put on those. But you can't really do that in a punters club, because then you've got to start telling people, hey, we've got 8 bets on, just trying to work out all the different situations that could happen. Because as soon as Legato piss bowls them, everyone goes, well, what a fucking waste. You wasted our cash because you didn't even need to have those bets. You're betting against yourself and all that sort of stuff, right? So that's where it becomes tricky. But we were keen on Legato, and that's where the big multi came from to then lead into Orchestral in the last race. We had both of those boosted. Now, this is where things started to get quite stressful as well, because then we liked Desert Lightning, and we actually looked at a bet, Desert Lightning to win, Legato top 4, $15. Thought, well, Legato should be winning this, right? And I mean, it's easy after to think like, okay, that was a great bet, but Desert Lightning could have easily not won this too. But we then looked at the market. Okay, what is it with Legato out? $4.80. Righto, let's have a decent bet to cover and add to the profit should Legato win.
And before that, there was a slight mention of the Quinella, but obviously with the big bet on Legato and expecting and hoping that Legato was going to win, the idea behind the taking the Desert Lightning bet with the Legato out was, instead of the Quinella, was, as Lacey would explain, was for just that extra little bit of insurance. Like, obviously, the Quinella, if Legato run 3rd and Desert Lightning wins, nothing back, right, and lose all of that. So that was, for the people at home that are watching, an explanation of, so the Quinella might have been $8.60, I think, fixed odds or something at the time, and the out was
4.8.
Yeah, 4.8. So it was just an insurance thing, that if Legato ran 3rd, Desert Lightning win, we weren't sitting there going, bugger.
Yeah, and I think in that race as well, second favourite ended up being Sharp and Smart, and that didn't run in the top 4.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
How much money did it take?
Yeah. So also, then we go to crack Desert Lightning, right? And the tab kicks back at me. Nah, you're exceeded your max bet. So I've got to get straight on the blower. Hey, we need to sort this out ASAP. They're like, shit, we can't. This is no knock on them.
That's the tab app too. You're meaning not the actual tab saying no, you can't have another bet. It was just the app.
The infrastructure. Yeah, so they're happy to have the bet, but like we're in uncharted waters here, where they're then like, well, it should work. We'll take the bet. And I'm like, well, we need to get it on because we're running out of time to communicate this, and everyone's going out there to watch Legato, but we need to get this bet on. So they're like, okay, we're going to build the bet in another way. Keep refreshing your screen. So I'm refreshing. And then it's not showing up. I'm like, guys, it's not showing up. Then my phone starts ringing again. No caller ID. I'm like, fuck, I know who this will be. I got to call you back. It's probably someone very important. Ring, ring. Hello. Yes, the Prime Minister wants to come into your room. They're at the door. Can you come and meet them? No, I can't. I'm trying to dump 100K on Desert Lightning to beat, with the Legato out of the market. And I'm like, can someone go and greet the Prime Minister and bring him into the room? And so, bang, I'm back on the phone to the tab. We find a solution. But I think we might have only got that bet on with a couple of minutes.
I think it might have been about 58 seconds. I think.
Yeah.
Well, that was a screenshot, and it was straight after putting it on. So, and I think the app notification definitely went out before the gates opened,
Yeah.
which was a
There's
bit,
a slight
bit
delay.
of pressure there. But
Yeah, well, I didn't realise that was on until after the race. And I was like, oh, gosh, hang on.
Yeah, well,
we won some more money here.
Once Legato went down, a couple of lads are like, oh, just seen in the app, we just won 500K. Like, where's everyone gone? Why's everyone gone back inside? This is fucking amazing. So, I mean, it's obviously a very, very good and smart bet with what ended up happening. It was pretty cool to see the Prime Minister in the room. He came and watched that race with us. He said, I'll stay in the room and watch from here. I said, no, you got to come experience this because I think we're about to, witness Legato win. We're going to get Desert Lightning into second. And that was what I was hoping. And then we're going to be sitting on a $2 million collect. Like, shit, it's just going to be insane. But, of course, he goes out there and watches it, and some boys that had back Desert Lightning are spraying cans everywhere. So we ended up with beers all over his shirt.
poor old David Ellis, too, he had it all over him. Probably not what they were expecting.
No, I'm like, boys, but Mr. Luxon just he enjoyed it. But obviously, back to the punt, that meant that we got the money back that we put on Legato, and then that puts us into that last race of the night. Now,
Just going to say, just very quickly, but a snazzy tabby form running into third as well. So, like, if you did listen to the podcast,
yeah, 50,000 each way.
Yeah, wow.
That was my
crazy.
tip in that race, 50,000 each way running out.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, you would have doubled your cash at the $4 place money.
So going into this last race, obviously the pool update we had there was the starting pool was 1.196, and the current pool was sitting at in about $1,300 profit.
Yeah.
But obviously we weren't going home with one race to go with $1,300 profit. We were there to have a go, weren't we?
We were there to have a go. We've had a go
We
here, and
promised.
we certainly did. And a reminder that's part of it, right? I think the Aussies summed it up well. They're like, these boys, they're having a crack. They're going for broke. It's not just like softly approach. And earlier in the day, we had identified that we all three of us liked Taliska, and we expected Taliska to be running third or fourth. And when we found this option around Orchestral top 4 and Taliska top 6, basically like this is a gift. And then we got that blessed out. Now, when I rang and got that blessed, there was only one bet on it. Within about an hour, there were about 200 people who had a bet on it. And then by the time we got to race 6, there was about $1 million riding on that. Might not have been quite that, but we put the 600,000 on loosely. So Orchestral top 4, Taliska top 6. Now, the way that I read the DMs and the comments and the shit afterwards for the next 24 hours, I'm thinking, fuck, like everybody in this country backed Orchestral with the stuff that was floating around, and just the surprise of like, how did you not get on? Now, when we were pricing up our final bet, I remember looking at the site, and Orchestral was about 2.7. Now, yeah, it was boosted out slightly, but we'd effectively revealed our hand as to what we liked, right? Because so the JMac bet was smart, because do the boys like Velocious? Do they like Orchestral? And we weren't saying. And people were asking, is that it? What's that? Now, Ted and the Goat and myself were pretty keen on Orchestral. But you just don't know with this field. We thought, right, maybe we're going to see Pendragon ping off the front. So this top 4 play, like Orchestral's got to be running top 4, and Taliska should be there or thereabouts in this sort of field. Bang, this is the way to play it. The other way to play it was Molly Bloom and Orchestral, both top 4. $2 flat. There was a little bit of chat of, shall we go chips all in and just go, right, let's roll the 1.2 and double it, and you're going home with nothing, or you're going home with twice what you put in. And we decided that the top 4 with Taliska top 6 was the better way to play it. Basically, we could have half the bet, get everybody double their cash as well, and if we missed, you'd at least still get half back. So behind the scenes, you nearly went home with nothing. Because, interestingly, what I discovered is that Molly Bloom started favourite for this race. Now, Molly Bloom started favourite at $2.40 fixed odds. So that would suggest to me that probably 35 to 40% of punters were smacking up Molly Bloom, because when I last looked, when I walked outside to watch the race, Molly Bloom was $3. So the money came, and there must have been a shitload of people, much like Luberon, betting on Molly Bloom and getting dusted in the last race. Now, unfortunately, Taliska didn't seem to run up to his potential. Maybe it's a little bit of that track. I find out today as well that he lost a shoe. So he's left a Reebok on the track. Never ideal, especially when you've got 600k on. But it didn't go our way, and we got beat up in the last race. But I think when you start to dive into the whole day, you realise it was probably very tricky for a lot of punters out there.
It's always so easy on Sunday. Like it is.
Remember I said on the podcast last Thursday, I was like, the thing I hate about this race day is how easy it is on the Sunday.
Yeah. But like at the 300 mark, because I had a personal bet on Pendragon, and it was each way, but I thought Pendragon was a great bet. It was just whether or not it was going to be able to see out the 1600 really strong. But at the 300 mark, like Taliska was 3 back on the markers, or in a pretty good spot, and had a chance to get there. And at one point, I don't know who Pendragon was up against, but it fought one off before Orchestral started really jumping, and I thought, my God, like, this might be the best bet by having Orchestral top 4, because it might just get beaten here. Like, Pendragon might just be that good. But it didn't work out. Like, Orchestral exploded and then just put them away. But, yeah, it's just punting, eh? Like,
It's just punting.
It's just punting.
Taliska falls in the top 6, and that's all you can talk about, probably.
Exactly.
And I think, remembering back to the Cup Week 1 when we took 500,000 off, I think this is the obviously lose a bit of money, and there's a few comments there, you should have backed this, should have done that. I think we won a bit of money during Cup Week, and it was, you've taken money off the codes, and they can't keep their tracks maintained, and they can't paint their stands and all that. So
Stop mentioning them.
It was a lose-lose probably there.
Yeah. And also, like, let's say we go chips in Orchestral and Molly Bloom wins. She starts 2.4. Why weren't you on fucking Molly Bloom, man? She's been the best horse in the country. She's proven herself way more than Orchestral. What were you guys thinking? What about that Lupo Solitario? That was down the track. Oh, man, what the hell? I backed Molly Bloom. So, like, you come to learn that when you're doing these things, you're never going to... There's always going to be the coulda, shoulda, woulda. And, I mean, even, like, as far as yesterday, it's like, could have told you Belclair was going to win. I'm like, yeah, you could have, but you didn't, and we wouldn't have even listened to you, love. So it's good fun, and it's just exciting because realistically, everybody's just chipping in with what they want to back. And I think the funniest thing of those people that have been negative about it, I'm like, well, you must have had a fucking good day yourself, you hero, because you seem to have found all the winners yourself. So I'm not sure why you're too worried about losing 50% of your $15 that you put into the Punters Club. I tell you outright, I had 10k in there, so I'm probably hurting more than most people commenting, but it is what it is. I decided to do that. No one else. Happy days. We go again.
While we're here, we better talk about obviously the wee tab mistake that they put in there on their website. So obviously, as we've said from day dot, the app is the number one thing to be updated first and foremost. So to run you through it, Luke and all them put the bid on. I take a screenshot of it, and I run into the app, and that's the first thing to be updated. So we put all the information in there, hit that send, and that all comes to everyone's phone. That's pretty quick turnaround, maybe a minute after the bet's put on. Then I'm into all the design apps, and we're on to updating the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, all of that. We have no control over the Punters Clown Lounge.
Punters Clown.
Punters Clown, yeah. Over their sheet and their little web page, which is manually done by someone at the tab. They've read the bet wrong, is my understanding, because on the bet form it doesn't say, it says half of Taliska's name, and obviously the prices were roughly the same, and they've obviously saw our other multi and thought, oh yep, it's Orchestral to win. They've typed that in there. Obviously there's been some people reading just the Punters Lounge one, which is totally understandable if you don't have the app and all our other socials, and may have been aware that thinking that bet was on, but that bet was definitely never placed. The top 4 and top 6 to Liska was the bet placed, and probably for next time it's more of a. Well, we sprouted it from the rooftops that the app was the place to be, and that's where it is.
I got a message from the app developers during the night saying, Jesus cripes, guys, we've had to extend the usage availability of the app because it's nearly blowing up. So one of the guys there was working down in Palmerston North, I think, and keeping an eye on it, and I think he was messaging Carl, who's quite involved with BGP on the day, and he'd help him do some ticketing and stuff in the room. And he texted me basically being like, mate, the boys are having to get this thing moving so that people can get in and see the bet. So people were obviously interested, but I didn't even really know about this until the next day. And I sort of, once the end of the day was there, for me, I've got a priority for me is to get round and make sure we've communicated everything with the Punters Club well, and then get round and say thank you to the people that have come along and sit down and have a beer with them and whatnot, and catch up with some of the people in the room as well. So I was pretty surprised as to getting screenshots the next day, and I'm like, are these like real or is this fake? Like people trolling me?
I think someone might have gone to the Herald and
someone's right into the Herald,
right into the Herald complaining. So
I seen. I made the mistake going through the socials and having a look at some of that stuff, and there was like so many complaints about do an investigation. Like there needs to be an investigation. It's unacceptable. So I thought I'd do a little investigation. So we've just done it, and there you go. That's what's happened.
If anyone wants to see the bet slips, I mean, I feel sick every time I look at them. I'm pretty sure we put them online.
Yeah, they're all on the app and all there for everyone to see. But obviously, that's unfortunate on the tab staffers' end. But we don't have any control of that. Yeah, we feel sorry for them that they might have copped a bit of flack. But
I've got a question for you, Dan. I was obviously watching the stream, and you were lucky enough to interview the Prime Minister.
Yep.
And I remember, so the funny situation is I'm sat looking at you guys, taking a few pictures, because obviously, you got to tick that one off. Behind you, which you wouldn't have known, was his press secretary, like just going at me going, he's only got 2 minutes. And then I see you get into I don't know what you're saying at this point. I see you get into one of the longest questions you ever asked a man. What did you actually ask him? And did he actually give you anything? Because I reckon you were asking about a good minute and a half kind of question.
Yeah, well, I thought I was going to be a little bit more direct than I was when I went back and looked at it. But I basically just told him like how much I love racing and how I got into it and how I'm a big fan. And then I sort of the idea was to ask him like how does he feel about it and what is he going to do like as a prime minister to try and promote it. And I thought he'd done pretty well. I mean, he jumped in and sort of explained that he has a background in it with his family and loves it and loves the idea of everything that's going on and loves the way that the racing industry and the deal with Entain is moving forward. And it seemed quite positive. To be completely honest, I'd had a few by then. So I there's probably going to never be another point in my life where I'm sitting next to the Prime Minister of New Zealand about 22 Smirnoffs deep. And just let rip.
You couldn't really tell, mate, to be honest. I watched a bit of it the next day after, and I thought you were in good spirits. But just the favourite for me, Taz and I watched this about 8 times back to back. You can see him walk past your shoulder, and you kind of realise, you're like, Mr. Luxon, hey, mate, how you doing? Boys are live on the stream. You want to have a chat? And he's like, I'll come right back. You're like, yeah, good. And it's just like, what just happened? That's so good. So funny. But good sport from Mr. Luxon getting involved. And, yeah, he had his BGP badge on. He was given that 2 years ago, 2 Karaka Millions ago, and he still had it from then. That's pretty impressive. That's sharp, man. That's sharp operator. Yeah. Right.
It's so good. That's just the whole, I don't know how you top it. Like, all of that stuff that was going on. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Don't know, mate. We said this last year, though.
Yeah.
It's always away, Fitzy.
David Seymour.
Oh, yeah. What's Brooke up to? Didn't see her this year.
Yeah, where is she?
Disappointing.
Pretty
Yeah.
bad.
Hey, punters in the room made a bit of coin too because they backed your best bet, mate.
Mm-hmm.
Great bet of the night.
Yeah, Merchant Queen done quite well. Crochetty's so good, but yeah. She just pinged along in front, done almost what she did the week before, a couple of weeks before at Ellerslie. And then I was really happy to
Pendragon top 4.
Pendragon to come top 4 as well. Could have played that top 3, but look,
they both run second. It's amazing.
Yeah, and 3.5 as well. I thought that was overs, and I got paid. I was pretty happy because I had quite a bit in the Punters Club and managed to make back.
Bit of that.
Yeah,
Nice.
little bit of that. That it was
boy.
less painful.
Good boy.
Yep.
And then Ted's best bet 1, Black Betty, and Punt IQ's CR7 as well. So there were a few fill-ups early in the day. Maybe that contributed to the increase in the Punters Club.
There's definitely a few multis players flying around the room that seem to be having a good day.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, our mate that was in front of us halfway through the outside, he opened his phone at one stage and he had a few multis going for about 15,000 on Legato, and I don't think we saw him after that, unfortunately. I think he might have gone and sat down inside and had to think to himself.
Yeah, well, after Legato got rolled, I went in and I was like, I'm going to go sit in my boot. I'm done. Right, well, we turn the page and start looking towards this weekend. Thanks again to everybody who got involved in the Punters Club. And for the punishers that were upset about losing, hey, you don't have to get involved. If you're doing it for the wrong reasons, please, don't get involved. We don't want the wrong people in there. And if you haven't been before, we'd love to have you at an event. It's really exceptional. There's young, lovely lady flew over on her own from Australia, and just saw her in the comments before saying that she's keen to come again next year. So we'll see if we can find some winners from this week. Just quickly before we do that, as Entain are growing and the TAB are growing, they are looking to hire more people. Now, I remember when I was first getting into racing and getting really obsessed with it, I was constantly looking for, I wonder if there are any decent roles in the racing industry, whether it be with clubs or whatnot. But if you are into racing and it's your sport, this is the time, I think, to be thinking about, okay, who's going to be hiring who, what sorts of roles, and came across Entain's role, promotions coordinator, as an example. But anyway, all of their jobs are listed on Seek. So have a think about what they may have coming up, if that's the sort of thing that you want to get involved in. But I'm not very good at recruitment, so I'm not doing that part for them. But that's probably the place you want to be having a look at if you want to start being a part of some of the action that is happening here in New Zealand racing. And before we get into some of the racing this weekend, quickly, Blessed Bet this week. We're going again, Jimmy Starr, the old ex-Kiwi. It's in Caulfield, race number 10. Now, $2.10 out to $2.40. The TAB actually said that the last time we made Jimmy Starr our Blessed Bet, there were 666 bets on it, and they had to pay out $100K. So hopefully, that was back in November, hopefully this is the horse that can give us a little double up and we can get a bit of that cash back from last weekend.
Into $2, I see, so already a bit of a move there.
Beautiful. Right, we're going to have a quick look at New Plymouth. I appreciate we've spoken a fair bit already, so let's go to New Plymouth, the Platinum Homes Taranaki 2-year-old classic at Group 3 level, Mr. Dan Rack, meeting for New Plymouth, race number 5. This is as easy as you like. Who's winning this?
Well, I mean, $1.35 captured by Love and the one and only. Looks pretty hard to beat. Now, there is something else that I just thought that I would speculate, because every now and then, as we've seen on the weekend, $1.25s and $1.35 shots can be beaten.
True.
And interestingly, there was a horse called Move to Strike that got clipped by Bellatrix Star at Pukekohe. Yes. Someone I know might have had a couple of bucks each way on Bellatrix Star. But I went back and just had a look through the trials and seen what I can found. And there's a horse, Hakushu. It's had a few trials. 2 starts back, it was second behind Move to Strike in a jump out. It jumped out, sat 4 wide the trip, and then Move to Strike sat at the back and then came over the top and just got home. But this horse really dug and really fought quite hard to sort of get within sort of half a length. And then it came out for another trial, ran 4th on a soft 6 or 7, and sort of went to the line under a hold and run about a length behind them. And so if you're looking for something that's maybe a little bit of value, maybe a little each-way play on Hakushu, but then also I think look for the power play markets later, because you might get captured by Love to win and Hakushu, top 3, top 4 or something,
No jockey listed for Marshy, which is a little bit concerning. Not sure.
That.
Yeah, just I was having a little bit of look at whether down that way. I think we're going to be on a wet track, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe, does it start? Not sure. But I do know that Ted really liked Captured by Love earlier in the week. He was already on to me. I think Tuesday. I still didn't even want to have a look at having another bet by then. I got to be honest, I was punting on Sunday. The dogs, actually, sicko. He was like, best bet this weekend, Captured by Love. I'm like, okay. And then opened $1.35. But we'll turn the page from there into race number 6. Unless, Fitzy, you got any thoughts of the two right there?
No, I'll let you boys handle this and we'll get into some harness action.
Attaboy. So then we're into the Dennis Wheeler Earth Moving Taranaki Cup over 1,800 metres. A really good field set aside for this. Dan, I was going to stick with a horse that I've spoken about a couple of times and who I didn't think was actually that bad last start at Trentham, and it is Colorado Star. Now, I think it won this last year. It's drawn barrier 1. I think it'll be there and thereabouts. But we're only getting $5 and $2, so pretty short. But that was the way that I was going to lean in this race. Anything you like in this?
My best bet's in this one.
Is it?
Yep.
Here we go.
Dark Destroyer, back from Oz. No, that's not it.
Damn it.
So maybe I'll save that for the best bet section.
Okay.
But just in saying that as well, I mean, like, this is a pretty open race. Like,
Yeah, it is.
pre-defer, I mean, who knows? Like, it's been pretty inconsistent, but you never know when it's going to pop up. $4.50 is a bit too short for me to find out. Dionysus coming back from winning was it the Livermore?
The Tarapa.
The
2400.
Yeah. So we'll be interested just to see how that goes. Like, sort of.
Even St. Alice is in there, but drawn barrier 15. I think you might end up being a couple of scratchings in this, but goes very good on a soft track. I wonder what we'll be racing on. Probably soft to heavy, I would say, looking at some of the rain there. Even a horse like Dubai Diva can be worth following. So that's a bit of a maze, but I was going to stick with Colorado Star, but we're only getting $5. Move on to race number 7, the Grange Williams Stud Oaks Prelude. This is pretty open as well. I see Livid Sky had a bit of specking earlier in the week and starts at $5 because it was third in behind Still Bang On and About Time on Boxing Day. No, it was New Year's Day, wasn't it? So can see why that's come up favourite, but keen to hear, Dan, where'd you go on this?
I think I'll probably maybe play a couple in this one. So Nefetti was a nice win second up on a good track at Hastings, and the leader got away a bit on the corner and sort of jumped maybe 2 or 3 lengths clear, and this horse really had to knuckle down and chase it really hard, and ended up going to the line pretty much in a canter, being eased down, and won by sort of a length and a half. The other one I do really like in this, it's coming back in distance, only a couple of 100 metres, but it's Livid Sky. Just keeps going good races and tries really hard. So I think that, was it last start that it was maybe 4 lengths off Molly Bloom and, what's the other? Mary Shan, Pukekohe. And that was a little bit of off track and caught a few horses off that day, so I can give it a little bit of a forgive. But only 4 lengths off them is probably not bad. But yeah, I just think this horse really tries hard. It's only 1-1 from 7, so... but $5 and $2, I think you're going to get a horse that's going to, try its absolute heart out.
I wonder where Ted will go in this. I've got a feeling he might stick with Black Betty, who's backing up and goes around again over the 1,800 metres. So good luck to everybody having a crack in this. It certainly isn't easy. I was going to have a little something on Ryan Elliott in this. Harlow rocks, but barrier 13, but $6.50 and $2.40. I actually didn't mind the run of the Entertainer last start as well for some good Taranaki folk there. But yeah, pick one you like in here and have a go. I see that Nefetti has gone from 5.5 into 4.8, so I guess we're going to find out how good this is. And yeah, bit of a watch on that horse Wren, W-R-E-N, as well from the Forsman stable. But I'm going to put Harlow Rocks on top, and then I think we're going to throw to Fitzy.
Got a bit of cramp going on.
Do you? And find out if you're A, all right, and B, have you got anything in this for us in the harness without giving away your best bet?
Not really. The best bet's a bit of value. But there's a couple of nice horses racing tomorrow night and Friday night at Addington. One being Oscar Bonavina, who won Dominion and has just been our class trotter of late, and he's only short, and Mark Purden and
$1.20.
Purden, yeah, they've got a few short ones in there.
Take
but
it.
Wasn't he going to go for the Great Southern Star.
Yeah, he's still a chance. Obviously, he was out of form for a while, and they figured the best way and how they've got him back into form is by grading the track right before he goes out onto the track. He's obviously had feet problems. He's been to the beach before to try and help them. It's been a reoccurring issue for a long time, and that's what Mark's had said is helping him, really helping him. So I think Mark's biggest concern about going over there was how long he went for, and obviously when you go over, you stay with someone, right? So you don't want to be like, hey, I need your tractor, and I need to be, no horse can go on the track until I've done the track and put this horse and work this horse around it. So so he could still go.
Mark can.
Yeah, he could still go. He might go for a hit and run mission, but he's staying around here for the meanwhile, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So he's in.
Oscar Bonavina, yep.
Yeah, there's a nice filly in the last moments. Another one of Purdon's ones, $1.70. I see Natalie Rasmussen's actually back driving, and for the Galloping Boys, she's probably the Jamie Carr of harness drivers. So she's been pretty sick actually for about 6 months, and she's back there her first couple of drives. So her stats are unreal. So she'll probably get a couple of winners. And there's one earlier. I'll just try and find what race it is. It's called Light Up the Boss. It trolled very nicely. It comes back in grade, and I'll just find Light Me Up. Sorry, in race 3. It's only short, but they're all you multi them together, and you're getting $2.50, $3, and it's a worthwhile crack. They're all very hard to beat, and Light Me Up is a nice 3-year-old going places.
All right, so we multi them all up, and we're getting $3.50 odds. So we have a little tickle of that. Cheers, Fitzy. They'll shout me a couple of beers.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. Good boy, just like that. All right, 3 winners in the harness from Fitzy. Let's turn to the best bets because there's a couple to get through and there's some big descriptions. I'll kick us off with Ted's best bet. He said, gee, they opened Captured by Love really short at $1.35, but it just wins. But my best bet at each way value is Wingatui Race 7, number 13, Verismo, $7 and $2.50. She has been taken all the way down from Cambridge to race in the Dunedin Gold Cup. She's racing out of her grade, but the key is the 2,400 metre distance of the race. She's the only horse in it that has won at 2,400, winning at Te Rapa 3 starts ago. 2 starts ago, she went to Pukekohe and finished 5th in the Dunstan Championship final over the same distance behind Trust in You, who then won the Avondale Cup next start, and the second and third horses Liquid Fire and Canny Rock both won easy next start also. Verismo ran home strongly over 2,200 at Te Rapa last start. Mares have won 4 of the last 6 runnings of this race, and Joe Doyle riding 1 kilo over. She is a nice each way bet. Ooh. Wow. Cheers, right up, Ted. Right, who's next?
I'll jump in with Punt IQ. So he's going to Caulfield Race 9, Midtown Boss, $2.40. Meets a couple of nice ones here, but I think he's a very nice progressive type. He smashed him at Flemington, fresh up for the new stable, hands and heels, and I think he's destined for group class races, and this is another race he can win on his way up.
Bloody beautiful. I'm going to go the GOAT's best bet, and he's got some good audio here, so I'm going to play this into the microphone. Hopefully, everybody.
The GOAT's best bet of the weekend. We go down to Wingatui in the White Robe Lodge. Wait for age 1600. Time's ticking. Joe Doyle takes the ride. Wet track will not worry this horse. Wait for age a mile. Just wins. Can't see anything that will get within QE of this horse. Last time on a wet track was back in September or early October in the middle day of the Hawke's Bay, 1600, flashed home for 4th behind Mustang Valley. None of these would get within QE in that race. So just remember, ladies and gentlemen, the more you put on, the more you get back.
Simple as that. The confidence is high post Karaka Millions, isn't it? Fitzy, what do you got for us, mate?
I'm going to Eddington on Friday night, and the horse is called Mighty Louie, race 6. Really liked his last 2 runs. I think he's back to his best, which is his best is pretty good. He was down on his form there for a while, but last time he was storming home on a race that set up to be a walk and a sprint. And look, this race is half a chance of being that again, but he gets on really well on the ratings. He gets in with a concession claim, so he drops back a whole grade and probably 2 grades, and there's only 7 in it, so he's not going to be that far off them. And if they run along up front, there's a horse called Fernedian there, owned by a few boys that they'll be cheering home. It looks probably a leader or on pace runner, so it's the one to run down. But I certainly think the 380 is worth shopping, and probably should start a wee bit shorter than that.
There we go. So that is Addington Friday night, race 6, number 7, Mighty Louis. The Rack Man, what do you got for us?
Yeah, mate, I'm meeting 4 New Plymouth, race number 6, the Dennis Wheeler Earth Moving Taranaki Cup. If you need some earth moved, call Dennis Wheeler, legend. But I'm actually going for Robbie Patterson. He's going absolute great guns at the moment. This horse Contribute carried 60.5 kilos, finished in 5th, and was in the worst part of the track at Trentham. Like, come up the inside and just sort of kept on giving. Jumps up in grade here a little bit. Hopefully get back to a good track, but if not, I think he goes all right on a soft track here anyway. And he's dropping down to 53 kilos. He's had 4 starts in the Sunshine Coast over 1,800 metres for 2 wins and 2 seconds. And he's had finished top 3 9 times out of his 13 starts.
Bloody brilliant.
So I think you're getting $10 and
$3 something to find out, is it?
Yeah, 10s and $3.30. So I thought a little bit of good each way value there.
Jesus. Well, Dennis might be around to your place to start using a digger to move a bit of cash around by the sounds if you get that home at $10. I'm going to go meeting for race number 3, El Chirac, Sam Spratt combined from Barrier 1, a horse called Terra Preta. This horse is now second up. I don't think the soft track will be any concerns. It was beaten by a nice horse called Wits End last start, I think, from Barrier 1. I'm expecting to see a couple of scratchings. Don't think we should get any deductions. So happy days. $3.80 Terra Preta to kick our day off in what will be a bonus back race as well to add a little bit of extra safety. Good luck if you're having a crack over the weekend with your best bets. Matty D, Matt Daddy, bit too busy to get that best bet in this week. We'll forgive him. We didn't hear from the Scan Man either, but if you are tuning into this, then check the email because we might put it into the email if we hear from him. Lads, hell of a pod. What's on for the weekend?
Very quiet weekend for me, boys. Probably do a bit of recovery still and just spend time with the family and stay at home. And
Fitzy, you going to go home or
I'm just thinking, like,
stay another week?
You know, we've got a good relation with Lux, and do you reckon he's got some old mates that can get me home? But home on Saturday afternoon. We've got a few horses to work up here for the stable that are down south that have brought some up on Friday and Saturday, and then finally better get home and do some work.
Good man. You've got a few shares and horses that you've purchased whilst being up here. First sort of foray, is that right? Foray into the gallops?
A wee foray into the gallops. Only small shares that we split between our ownership group that we've got down home, which is there's actually owners everywhere in Tahiti, Australia, every city in bloody New Zealand. So if anyone wants a share, obviously yell out, and there's shares everywhere going for sale. DC, he's brought some bloody good stock there, DC, and Marshy as well. So there's plenty of options out there. But if you're looking for some fun, holler at me.
Fitzy, Often Racing. They're gonna the race under the Often Racing.
I don't know if they'll be in the silks. We might have to work a bit of magic to get them, but it'll be a bit of fun anyway.
But you got them with Roger James and then Chrissy Bambury, is that right?
Yeah, and one with Lance O'Sullivan and Andrew Scott. So we're
nice.
starting at the top.
Wow.
And we'll work our way from there and see how the luck goes. But it's exciting to be involved. Obviously, there's those big announcements the last couple of weeks into the thoroughbred game, and then the performance of Entane with the Karaka Million and the turnover there and the job they're doing. It's an exciting time to be involved in horse ownership and involved in the industry.
Bloody oath. Well, I couldn't help myself and ended up picking up a couple of small shares and horses again this week with all the excitement that's going around, and I'll probably end up with a couple more by the end of next week as well. So if you do want to take your first share in a horse, then have a look at some of the registered syndicators via Love Racing, or even check out some of the racing stables on their websites. They usually have all the information with the horses that they've brought. You can get in touch. There's no question is a silly question. They'd love to have you involved. A lot of trainers these days are going right down to 1% in a horse, and it's a great way to learn the process because they start at the sales and then usually get tipped out, bring them back into the stable, try and get them going. Sometimes they can't. They've got to go back out, or hopefully you can get through a prep and into the races as a 2-year-old and hopefully win some of those good races or put some stake money in the kitty. And you might end up in the Karaka Millions 2-year-old. How good would that be?
Yep, my advice is take a range of them if you can. Small shares and a range of them give you more chance. It's like a lotto ticket or a punt.
Yeah.
The more you have, the more chances you are of getting a win or a good horse, and that's where the fun begins.
Well, there were hundreds of horses sold out at the Karaka Complex from New Zealand Bloodstock, and the next winners of the Karaka Million 2-year-old will be there, and the 3-year-old as well. So what a time to be involved in racing. Before we go, Dan Rack, we've got a bit of admin to do. It doesn't stop, does it? We might be looking at maybe a little race by grins coming up, or even a Warriors game if anyone's interested in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I've got a meeting tomorrow with the great man David Branch from Cambridge to have a little bit of a chat about the opportunity of putting on an event down there. And interestingly, yeah, we done the rugby league event last year at the Warriors, and the lounge happens to be available on that same weekend, so we could have Friday night down in Cambridge, and then a little bit of a dusty drive back in the morning from Cambridge to the Warriors.
Yep.
So yeah, maybe flick some messages through if that sounds like something that you'd be keen on, and we'll see if we can put something together and get something out as soon as we can.
Yeah, I think there's good racing on the Saturday as well from 2 race meets around the country when I had a look. So we could be at the Trots or the race by grins on the Friday, and then get stuck into a couple of reloaders on the Saturday and find some winners, and then off to the Warriors to watch them beat up the Sea Eagles if we can pull it all together.
Absolutely.
What can go wrong?
How good.
It needs to be an investigation. Jeff Tuvey, how good. Lastly, again, thank you so much for being a part of last weekend. I think we as BGP, the community, contributed massively towards what was a huge weekend of racing. I started Googling how many over 18-year-olds are there in the country. Let's divide how many people had a bet digitally by the number of 18-pluses there are in the country. And I reckon, after doing a heap of spreadsheets and math, that I reckon around maybe maybe 2 out of every 100 Kiwis had a bet on the Karaka Millions. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot when you say it's 2% of people over 18, but 2 in 100 people having a bet on the race day. And then think of the people on the fringes, like, why are you watching this? What's all this about? Even that with the Punters Club, and I've heard stories like that this week where people were watching it and people were saying, what's going on here? Why are you glued to this? And trying to understand it. So imagine then the snowball that creates for Karaka Millions race day in the future, and even just other races as well. So thank you to everybody out there. Congratulations to you all. A big clap for you, because together we played our role, as did many parts of the industry, to make what was a record-breaking night of racing. And hopefully we can dust ourselves off and go again in a year's time.